I'm an IYCA certified youth nutrition specialist. And I didn't end up going that way because of any great desire I had for nutrition. I'm just going to tell you the story of how I got there. In the past, secondary cause was I trained sprinters. I've kind of retired from that in the last year, but I trained football players and sprinters in track. I trained my son since he was 10 years old. He ended up winning CIF in the 100 and the 200 and getting a full ride to UC Davis. And a lot of that was because of his nutrition. You know, when it comes to tenths and hundredths of a second, the nutrition is what a lot of people didn't really get into aside from the training, but we did, and I think that helped push them through. But that was the kind of the secondary reason I got into it. I'm going to tell you a little story of about 10 years ago. We inherited a BMW from a relative, and we're not really BMW type of people, we're more Honda, Toyota. And I would go to the gas station, and this is when gas prices were pretty high. And I would be looking at the premium. When you popped open the BMW, it said use only premium gas. So I would flip up the premium gas and look at the price difference between premium and price difference between just the regular and go, So one day I decided, well, maybe I will try the cheap stuff. So I go, I'll just try a quarter of a tank. So I put in a quarter of a tank in the car, and guess what? It was fine. It ran great. So I thought, oh, stoked, I get to save a bunch of money on gas now. Well, after using the cheap stuff for a while, little minor things started to happen with the car that I didn't attribute to what I was doing. But after a while, the car started running fairly badly. And so what I thought I was doing by inappropriate fueling of my car to save money by using the cheap stuff ended up costing us a lot more money. So switch it over to my kids. Around the same time, my two youngest sons, who you would think they look super healthy, they're active, they're thin, went to the doctors for a physical, and they had some blood work done. And later on, the blood work came home, and I looked at it and told my wife, we need to call the doctors because they must have got somebody's blood work switched up, because my youngest son, the triglycerides were very high. His cholesterol was high. And I said, there's no way, just look at them. They're healthy, active. And I started looking at, okay, you know, just because they look that way doesn't mean they are that way. So I started looking into what they were putting into our bodies, basically what I was putting in their bodies, because as a parent. And my goal today is not to give you a good recipe or two for a meal or two, but to try to get you motivated to look at exactly what's going into your body and your child's body and how it's affecting them, because this is what happened to me. So the first thing I did was I started journaling. So I go, okay, for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to feed them basically the way I fed them before I got the blood work. So I went through and I journaled down everything that I was feeding them. I journaled meals, but then I also journaled, you know, the 7-Eleven stops, the soda after soccer on Fridays, the McDonald's stops when we were in a hurry. And then I looked back on my journals after a couple of weeks, and then the blood work started to make sense, because I was feeding them some good food, which made me feel better. You know, I'd throw in some carrots and broccoli into something, but what they were getting was they were getting, you know, way too much bad fats. They were getting too much sodium. They were just getting too much processed food. And when I looked at that, I go, well, this kind of makes sense now. So the journaling was the very first thing I did. So I'm going to put up at the end of this, I'm going to put up a little handout that shows how you can get started in doing this. But the journaling was probably the biggest thing that turned around and got me into nutrition. And that led me on the road to where I'm at today. So after journaling, it just found out that we weren't feeding them really well. And after the journaling, we went together as a family and started doing a unit on food labels, which is really interesting. There's some big problems with food labels today. You know, sometimes even after the reports that we got, the blood work, I talked to my kids about, okay, this is what could happen in the future if we keep going on this road. So they got really interested in what they were putting in their bodies also. But they would pull out, say, some sugary drink and look at it and say, okay, Dad, there's only 23 grams of sugar in this. And I'd say, no, what? Look up at the servings per container. And they'd look up and they'd say, oh, there's 2 servings. So actually there was, 46 whatever, 23, 46 grams of sugar in the drink. And that's kind of how food labeling works. They will tell you, you'll get something. And usually if you look up at the serving sizes, it's 2 or 3 servings, or they'll laugh and pull off a pack of gummy worms at the store to look at the label. And the pack says serving size 3 gummy worms. But, what kid ever eats 3 gummy worms? They eat the whole pack. And so when you're looking at the sugar is for like 3 gummy worms. So we became really, it's kind of become a hobby for us, is looking at food labels and trying to discover, what's in it that's good, what's in it that's bad. And my kids are starting to learn what they should get and what they shouldn't get. Another funny one is does anybody use the Canola spray at Costco? It's like the Pam nonstick stuff. So it will say in the food label, 0 cholesterol, 0 sodium, 0 fat. And if you look up at the serving size, it's pretty funny because the serving size is 1/4 of a second of spray. So that's how they keep it 0. But I've never in my life used 1/4 of a second of spray of that stuff. So we really got into labels, and I just lost my screen. Hold on a second. There we go. And then next we started looking at, okay, what do you need for your body to operate correctly? For example, protein. When I went through this, I found out that I was way short on protein. And I did this through, again, journaling and then going and looking, you Google all kinds of stuff. And so I looked at my protein needs and the protein needs of my kids. And I figured out, I exercise a lot. We have a Peloton in the garage. We have a treadmill. We have a weight room in the garage. I train jujitsu and encinitas. We snowboard, surf. And so when I went through and actually looked at, okay, the needs of my age and activity and body weight of protein, I figured out that I was way short on protein. 0.8 times my body weight is how many grams of protein I was supposed to be getting, and I was nowhere near that. So going through these things, and I found out that my kids were also short on protein. But I wouldn't have known this if I didn't journal, and I wouldn't know this if I took this into my own hands and saying, you know what, I'm going to actually examine everything that they're putting in their bodies to see what it needs. And then also in contrast is finding out what your body doesn't need. We go up to Mammoth twice a year, and we don't have cable, so we don't watch too much TV. But when we are in Mammoth, we have free cable. So, and my sons, they're teenagers, but they still like SpongeBob SquarePants. So we get inundated with SpongeBob while they can watch it up there. And there are a lot of commercials that have healthy snacks. You got the mom that says, hey, come on, kids, let's get something healthy. And then she pulls out some kind of gummy somethings, and they try to tout what's in them, made with 10% real fruit juice and your full day supply of vitamin C. And they don't tout the rest of the ingredients, the paragraph of the ingredients on the side of the box that you can't really read unless you get a microscope on it, that have all the added stuff that your body really doesn't even recognize. You know, your body needs to recognize what it's digesting. You know, you can see it, you know, your stomach sending a message to the brain saying, hey, we got a problem, brain, and the brain saying, what's going on? And your stomach saying, well, we got some apples down here, some carrots, we know what to do with this, but now we got this purple goo. We have no idea what it is. We don't know what to do with it. So your brain's saying, okay, just chop it up, liquefy it, and send it to your small intestine for it to deal with. So there's things that our body is just not ready to use, and it doesn't, some of the stuff it doesn't even know how to digest it well, and that's how we run into problems in our gut. So, but that's a whole different talk. So you need to also find out what the body needs in terms of, you know, proteins, what kind of carbohydrates you should get, what kind of fats are good fats. And this is what I'm hoping that after this, that you guys will start to take a journey on. So just like that BMW, our bodies aren't equipped if it's the wrong gas. And we pay the price for that in what we put on our bodies. So I got like 3 minutes. I have some other stuff to say, but I'm going to give you, my kids are pretty healthy, but you know, they're teenagers. So sometimes they make mistakes. And so one night my wife is a NICU nurse and I drive her down to work. She works night shifts. So I drive her down every night, and I was getting ready to leave. And my 14-year-old said, hey, Dad, I just got this, it was Grubhub or something app, and I just saved $12 on McDonald's. And I said, what do you mean $12 on McDonald's? I go, first of all, what do you eat McDonald's for? And then how do you save $12 when I go, you could eat at McDonald's for like $5 probably. And then I had to leave. So I go, well, I got to go. He says, oh, they're delivering it. So then I jump in the car, and it's about an hour down and back for my wife. And I get home and I go in, and there's all this McDonald's trash there. So what happened was he accidentally ordered the family meal instead of what he was doing. So there was 40 McNuggets, 2 Big Macs, 2 regular fries, and a drink. And when I got home, the 40 McNuggets were gone. The 2 Big Macs were gone. He was on the second fry. And this is like a 115-pound 14-year-old. And and so I just go, oh my gosh, you probably just set your life back 5 years. What are you doing? But I didn't get super mad because I don't want to be this hammer that comes down on every single thing they do food-wise. And I just told him, well, you know what, you're going to pay for that later. And he totally did pay for that. Later on, he was saying, Dad, oh my gosh, my stomach. The next day, his digestive system was racked. We've got 1 minute for Adam to come in, but all I wanted to do with this is to try to get you on a journey to examine everything that goes into your body and everything that goes into your kid's body. The best way is journaling. I have, let's see, I'm going to show my screen. And can you guys see that? Nutrition Journey Starter Ideas?
No.
No? Did it share it?
No.
Okay, I also have it in the chat. So basically it says 1, to start a food journal, 2, and it has directions, 2, start a food label unit, 3, learn the requirements for good nutritional plan in the amounts considering your age, weight, height, activity, all that. Research the healthiest foods that fit into each categories above. And the last one is do the work and live a healthier life. And that's also in the chat. And if you wanted to put your email in there, I could send you a copy of it. And my email is on that. And I'm the PE and health specialist. And I'm here anytime you want to email me any questions about nutrition, if anybody needs help. And next, I'm going to hand it off to Adam, and he's going to go over some nutrition apps.
All right, cool. Thanks, Steve. I'll just preface mine by saying I'm not an expert. I I had to do quite a bit of homework just to make sure I'm giving good information, but I am a dad. I got 2 teenage boys that are pretty active. So, we've found that feeding them the healthy food when they're really hungry, that works pretty well. But you got to find a routine that works for you. I know personally, I don't eat a lot during the day. I do better with smaller items, and then the rules go out the window a little bit for me at dinner time because I know I need to refuel again. But really, what I wanted to share with you guys is some popular youth nutrition apps, and then I have the pros and cons. I also have some other popular nutrition, regular adult and adolescent nutrition apps. So I'll share those really quick while we have a couple minutes. I'm going to share my screen for a moment. Of course, it's not going to come up. Let me try that again. I've just found that there's a lot of information out there. All right, there it is. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
There's a lot of information out there. And there's a lot of apps to choose from. Some are more catered to the young kids, some are for older. So I have on here 3 apps that were pretty popular for youth nutrition. First one was Healthy Heroes. It's kids are learning how to recognize healthy foods and healthy eating habits by playing a game and fending off hungry monsters. The pros are that it's free. They do learn about 30 plus healthy, diverse foods and about the caloric intake and things like that. The cons were really that, 3rd grade and older may not find it as interesting or as fun. The other one would be the Eat and Move-O-Matic. This is one where it does feel like more of a real game. I did try this one and it was more like a video game. Kids understand that food provides energy through calories, and then they compare the number of calories eaten with an activity that they want to do. The pros are obviously it feels like a more of a real game. It focuses on the relationship between food and exercise, and even I've from the reviews, a lot of adults have enjoyed this app also. Cons are that it's harder to customize for caloric intake, and that the food suggestions are limited to a typical American diet, like hamburgers and pizza and French fries. So, it may not work for everybody, but it was fun. The other one was Smash Your Food. This one was fun. It's recommended from Common Sense Media. I'm sure a lot of you know that that's like a parent organization that really looks out for what's good for kids to be using and watching. It invites the kids to smash foods. And then as they do, they talk about the daily limits for certain common foods and they learn about nutrition. So it's messy and fun and informative. And the game is that they're trying to guess calories, sugars, fats, and stuff like that. That one does cost money. And it's recommended for a sort of a small window for kids, 6 to 11. And I only have 1 minute, but I did do a 2-part comparison for nutrition apps for adults and adolescents, because I think we set the example for our kids. One was Noom and the other one was Myfitnesspal. So I'll go ahead and I'll upload this information into the chat. But basically, Noom involves getting a coach. It involves a lengthy survey, and then you get a coach that is all about motivating you, and it's about accountability. Those coaches are not certified dietitians, though, and so they can be inconsistent in how they support or their knowledge of what they're sharing. So, but it is a scientifically valid method. It's talking a lot about tricking your brain and promoting healthy habits. There's a lot of good feedback on Noom. Yeah, it is expensive, though. You can get a 7-day trial. It's $99 for 2 months. So, you just have to be careful that beyond that 7 days, they're gonna charge your credit card. And then the last one is Myfitnesspal. This one is really all inclusive. There's a free version and there's a premium version, and it's considered the best overall app by many different consumer organizations. A lot of tools that are integrated into it. You can even do restaurant menu logging with the premium version. It does require that premium package though, which is about $50 for a half a year. And I'll give a shout out to Tracy just as we wrap it up, because she mentioned that Kev the Trainer on YouTube is a helpful tool for deciding which app might be really good for you. So just want to encourage you to do your own research, because I think everyone's different. I think everyone has to find something that works for you, and you got to make sure that it's going to work for your family. So all of these things here are available, and I'll make sure I put it into the app for everybody, or into the chat for everybody. And with that, I'll turn it over. If you have anything else you want to share, Steve. Thanks, everybody.
Nope. Have a good day.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, thanks, Tracy. Thanks, Kate. Aren't you glad I didn't put you on the spot?
Hey, Adam, sorry about I was looking at my, you know how our computers are a little off on the time?
Yeah.
Well, ours,
It's all good.
I looked down and you had 5 minutes. I looked at my watch and you didn't have 5 minutes. So
It's really all good. I mean, I'm just flying through this.
yeah.
I feel like we're just doing the best we can. I mean,
Yeah.
really the bottom line is you got to do what works for you. So, yeah, it was actually good for me to do that homework, because I've been wondering about a couple of them, but yeah, I mean, you gotta like get the word out with your own kids. I think I just gotta feed them when they're really hungry. I gotta give them like all the fruits and vegetables and front load it when they're really hungry. That works.
Yeah.
That seems to work pretty well.
I found out too that if you leave some healthy stuff out on the counter, they kind of walk over and while they're doing stuff and just grab, you know, carrot sticks and broccoli and stuff, and they'll just walk over and kind of grab one and walk away and chew on it, and it
Right,
seems to work
exactly.
pretty well for snacks.
Yeah, it's almost like yeah, if you can get them when they're like just when it's convenient and you can push it in their face, and that like, okay, that'll work, you know, like
Yeah.
they'll put it in their mouth if it's convenient and it's right
Yeah.
there in front of them,
Yeah.
you know. But I will say that like we go surfing a lot, and when they don't eat breakfast before they go surfing, they are like they're useless in the water.
Yeah.
And they're cold. That
Yeah.
they've noticed, like when they do, especially right now with the cold water, they're like, yeah, Dad, I'm freezing out here. And they're like, really? Because the water warmed up slightly and you got your full suit on, and what'd you have for breakfast? And they're like, oh, I didn't eat breakfast yet. You're like, well, there you go, buddy.
Yeah. And then they're kind of dragging for the rest of the day too, usually.
Right. I know this is after the fact, but I just uploaded that nutrition app thing. So if people want to pop in, they got access to it.
Okay.
All
Well,
right. See you, buddy.
have a
Good
good
job.
weekend.
All right. You
bye.
too.